It's Tuesday, April 7, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. We begin with a warning today that 1 in every 5 workers in Barbados could soon be on the breadline as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to affect the economy. Assessing current data of best and worst case scenarios, Dr. Justin Robinson, Professor of Finance at the University of the West Indies Civil Campus, disclosed that unemployment could climb over 20% given the number of workers who depend directly and indirectly on the tourism sector. Professor Robinson expressed particular concern for the self-employed as well as small and micro business owners who are likely to face great hardship if the situation continues. The Barbados Workers Union says COVID-19 has significantly altered the situation of work and workers in ways that governments, employers and unions could not forecast. And as such, BWU General Secretary Senator Tony Moore has again urged employers to maintain employment levels as far as possible during the pandemic.
Employers are being encouraged to support the national effort to maintain employment. This call comes against a recognition that many employers have suffered directly from the dramatic fall off in travel as flights and hotel bookings have been cancelled, and the fact too that productivity has slowed significantly for businesses which cannot facilitate remote working. Workers who could have been classified as being in secure jobs are now confronted with uncertainty. This fact is compounded as Barbados has come face to face with the stark reality that there are far too many workers that are not eligible for social protection in the form of unemployment and other benefits. Yet government must still develop tailored responses for these to ensure that the cycle of poverty and inequality in our society is not amplified. The Barbados Workers Union's call has been insistent, therefore, of the need for active steps to be taken to prevent layoffs and to protect the vulnerable.
Health officials are worried about the number of elderly persons among the 52 currently in isolation for the COVID-19 virus. The concern, expressed by head of the infectious disease program at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Dr. Corey Ford, came on the heels of the deaths of 2 males, an 81-year-old and a 74-year-old, due to complications of the virus. There are now 60 confirmed COVID-19 cases. A 95-year-old man who is critically ill, as well as an 84-year-old woman, are among the 4 new cases diagnosed on Sunday.
We have at the Enmore facility, we manage people who are ventilated, who are obviously very ill. And then we have, of course, at the Blackman and Gollop facility, for example, 2 sections. So one where we have people who are unwell but don't require ventilation, and then we have another section with people who are quite like me or you. What I want to mention particularly is in that particular section at Blackman and Gollop is one where we have a more elderly population who are quite ill, and specifically one of the patients there at present is actually quite ill, which we are managing at this particular point and venture. I think it's important at the end of this to say that for the average Barbadian to understand a few facts. Given the trajectory of this disease and what we have seen internationally, we're quite concerned about our elderly population, and it's very, very important that every single Barbadian looks after those persons in the elderly population.
COVID-19 Czar Richard Carter disclosed that the over 24 Trinidad nationals who were under mandatory quarantine in Barbados have been discharged. The CARICOM nationals have been in Bridgetown since last month after Port of Spain locked down its borders in a bid to contain the spread of COVID-19 infections.
The Trinidadians, I believe, would have ended their period of quarantine today, and therefore they would have discharged their responsibility from a public health perspective. Whatever they do after that is really their business and the business of the government of Trinidad, because essentially we would have covered our public health requirements in terms of maintaining them in quarantine over the 14-day period.
The Czar also revealed that government officials and food retailers are actively trying to come up with a plan to ensure that Barbadian households can be replenished with goods and other essentials.
I was in a meeting of the subcommittee of cabinet with a number of the retailers and distributors discussing the best means by which we can meet the needs of the population, obviously for food, particularly as we go into the Easter weekend, but particularly also because there has been a period of restriction over the past couple of days. So we have two critical things to address. One, the obvious need to ensure that the population has access to food, and to do that in a way that is commercially appropriate. But secondly, to address the challenge of ensuring that we do not see a repeat of the scenes of chaos and basically people engaging in large crowds around the supermarkets. So meeting the public health requirements of physical distancing.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now, 52 Grenadians reportedly on 2 cruise liners currently docked in Florida are pleading with their government to open the borders to facilitate their return home. We get the details of that story from GBN.
One Grenadian who asked to be identified only as Tracy from St. David's spoke to GBN appealing to the government of Grenada to please allow them entry into their country.
Our company is sending everyone home and we just really want to come home, so we want to know like how soon will the airport open, or if the government is willing to open the airport for seafarers to come home. If they are willing to do that, our company is willing to work together with them to ensure that we come home safe. So we just call in on who is responsible, the government or the Prime Minister or whoever. We just really want to come home to our family.
The cruise line ceased operations for 30 days as the coronavirus continues to spread throughout the world. And Tracy says the company is willing to charter a flight for them to return to Grenada. Tracy told GBN all crew members remain in quarantine aboard the 2 cruise ships in Florida.
And finally, the head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, makes an appeal for medical masks to be prioritized for health workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. He made the plea in an update on the COVID-19 pandemic.
We know medical masks can help to protect health workers, but they're in short supply globally. We're concerned that the mass use of medical masks by the general population could exacerbate the shortage of these specialized masks for the people who need them most. WHO has been evaluating the use of medical and non-medical masks for COVID-19 more widely. Today, WHO is issuing a guidance and criteria to support countries in making that decision. For example, countries could consider using masks in communities where other measures such as cleaning hands and physical distancing are harder to achieve because of lack of water or cramped living conditions.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.